Hi, hi guys.
Hello, Rimgalis. How are you?
I'm well. Thank
Good.
you.
Hi, Jeremy.
Tim, that's very clever.
Yeah.
I just switched from the introduction of the new members with you in your nice suit and tie, and now you're here. All seems to be going okay so far.
Yeah, no, there were a few minor technical difficulties at the very beginning because of, I think it was due to Vimeo and permissions from Vimeo. So we've checked, we made it public basically, so that anyone could view it in theory, but of course people wouldn't do, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So,
Good.
and I had a good people breakout. Anna was very good on that.
Okay. Hopefully she didn't say the same thing that I'm going to say, because I'm talking.
Well,
there
might be a little bit. I think quite a few of these breakouts there'll be a little bit of overlap. And
I'm talking about staff issues, aren't I? Isn't that my?
You are talking about. I think you are actually. Yes, of generally staff issues, but
but then happy to.
Yeah, I think
broaden it.
We can broaden it out. Yeah, it gets the conversation going anyway. So and what we'll do is we'll do the poll as well, and there might be a few things that come out of that. Yeah, exactly.
That's okay.
So, we've got Peter Walsh is joining us.
Yeah,
from Ireland. He said he's on a call, so he might be a little bit, sort of just in time. And then we should have Uche from Nigeria.
Okay.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so.
Good.
Yeah.
If not, we somehow will cover with Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, if not, that's why we try and go for 4 people, just in case there's someone who drops out. But we'll be fine. But no, we had a good discussion on the people side. We had about 30 people there, yeah. So yeah. What have you listened in much, Jeremy, so far?
I listened to the FIA man from Austria. And
yes.
I just joined the marketing session. Where's Steve Bedford from, Tim?
He's from Conical, our marketing agency. Yeah, who are based in St Albans.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought he was quite good.
Was he good? Good.
Yeah, I thought the session was good, actually.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So, yeah.
The only thing I find is when it's virtual, it's easy to be distracted. That's and I'm sure we're all the same. An email pings up or something in your inbox, and things like that. Whereas when you're there in person, you're more engaged. I think that's probably just a self-discipline matter.
No, I think it's human nature, isn't it? Actually, I think definitely with a keynote speaker, if you're in a room, a good keynote speaker will absolutely hold your attention for 40 minutes, an hour, or whatever it may be. Whereas I think it's very difficult on virtual. And I think with a panel discussion, again, it's easy just to sort of half listen. That's the thing.
Tim, how long did you want us each to intro for at the start?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll give an initial intro and just introduce the 2 of you, or hopefully the 4 of you, and then we'll do the poll.
Yeah.
And I'll throw that up. I'll just double check that we've got the right poll loaded. Yep, that's right. And then I'll throw up the poll results, and we can have I'll do a little bit of a debrief on that, and we can pluck out a few things from that. Then I'll ask you to sort of introduce yourselves as panelists, and your firm, so in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
And then basically on the 4 bullets, I see that each of those being about 10 minutes.
Okay.
In general discussion, not for you to talk for 10 minutes, but if you lead off, and that worked quite well actually with the people one, that we were generally about 10 minutes, and I might ask some supplementaries and things like that, and so we'll go around the houses.
I think it's easier to discuss in this case because like when you start, like you do some introduction, and I think even like few minutes, like when you started later on, when you do interactive, I think it's even more interesting. Because
I'm very keen, and I think what I'd like to do is keep the panelists not on mute, so that you can do just that, Rimgaudus. You know, if Jeremy says something, you can chip in and say, yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy, on that. This is our experience or whatever. So yeah, I think it's nice to have it a bit more interactive like that.
Yeah, because I myself, I'm not ready like to speak 10 minutes about that exactly to begin. But I think in discussion we can find a lot of topics and to last it as long as we want.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just going to send an email to our panelists.
Tim's panicking.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, like if we will not join from the beginning, still like we can join later on. You put them here. I think it's still fine. We can. Nothing to do, yeah. Because for myself, also today I haven't yet participated in any of events, so only this one, and afterwards maybe I will try to participate in some, because when it's online, as Jeremy said, it's very easy to get into like distracted, and it's a lot of meetings always, and I don't find it like that. So if we would go in person, it would be for sure we would spend a lot of much more time for networking.
Yeah. Just we've got a couple of people in the waiting room, but so we won't start until on the half hour anyway.
Yeah.
So did you dip into the new members, Jeremy?
I did just briefly, Tim. I only caught the end of, I can't remember, someone, and then the lady from the US.
Oh yeah.
And then I just caught the start of was it the Kenyan?
Yes.
Someone from Kenya.
Absolutely. Who was introduced to us by, who was it from Hayes McIntyre?
Oh, Jessa, was it?
No, it wasn't Jessa actually. No, I forget who it was now. Yeah, I forget who it was. One of your guys who was Kenyan, who is Kenyan. I think you knew him from Kenya.
Was it Selvin?
No, I can't remember who it was actually. I can't remember who it was. Someone who's I think he's a senior manager rather than partner. Yeah, I can't remember. I think you circulated. I think how it all came about. You circulated the list of locations.
Okay.
And then someone picked up on it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good.
So which is very good.
Excellent.
Well, we might. Yeah, we'll see who joins us. We can always sort of open up the discussion anyway.
Yeah.
You're an expert at this, Jeremy. You've done lots of these.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert.
Your weekly managing partners forum.
Well, I've got it. It's fortnightly now. I don't know whether it's fine. It's got much easier, obviously, and I don't need to do that much prep now. When I first started, I was doing a lot of prep, but I don't do that much now. But I'm not sure it's great value. I'm not sure how much the listeners get out of it. There's not that many people on the calls anymore.
Are there not?
Well, there's perhaps 30.
Oh, okay.
And I
try and do it every week, actually.
Do you?
Yeah. It's in my calendar, and I try and do it. And
do you find it interesting and
I
useful?
do. I think I find some of the speakers very. There's always one or two things. One week might be better than another. So
good.
Find some of the polling interesting too.
It
I always
is.
get something out of it.
Yeah, the polling is interesting, although I'm not sure there's enough people. There's a lot of suppliers on there, for want of a better phrase, consultants or that sort of thing. So I'm not sure the polling is always reflective necessarily of professional firms. That's the only thing. But no, I mean, it's still in the diary, and Richard contacted me yesterday actually, so it's fine.
Yeah. And what's her name? Francesca, is it?
Yeah, Francesca Lederberg.
She's a stalwart, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she's only missed one.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Oh, here's Peter.
Yeah.
Here's Peter.
Perhaps I should put some background on. Might look a bit more professional.
You look lovely, Jeremy.
Hello, Peter.
You can only do so much with the raw material, Peter.
You're doing all right. You're doing all right. Sorry, gents. How are you keeping?
No, great. I know you want to call, Peter, but thanks for joining. The reason I sent my email to you was we had a people discussion earlier on, and Anna Bennett from Hayes McIntyre was on it, and she said, Tim, I have to admit, I sort of had a brain freeze moment earlier on today. She said I hadn't clicked that it was Central European time, not British summertime.
Gotcha.
And so she said she contacted you, Jeremy, as to say, just be aware.
I clocked it earlier in the week. I'd picked it up.
Yeah, great. Well,
Francesca's ringing me there, so I'm just telling her I'm good. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, no, fantastic, great. Well, look, we may have another. I hope we might have another panelist joining us, Uche from Nigeria, but I can't see him there at the moment. But the way I'll do it is I'll admit people in 2 minutes. I'll give a quick introduction just to say, who the three of you are. Go through the format of the day. Or the hour. I'll throw up a poll, and I think the poll will hopefully sort of trigger a few thoughts that you may have, and then we'll go through. Then I'll ask each of you to properly introduce yourselves. If I remember, I forgot the last panel discussion, and talk about your firm size, location, etc. And then I've divided up with Jeremy starting off on staff issues, efficiency of working. Then for you, Peter, client demands, Rim Gaudas, and then we've got new technology, new platforms, and changing customer expectations, which Uche is down to cover that. We may run out of time on that, and some of that touches a little bit on a panel discussion we're having later this afternoon, which is on the future anyway. So I think it's really more about your perspective as sort of managing partners, senior partners, running a business, some of the challenges that you're facing, really.
Sure.
I think that's the key thing. Good. Right. We've got a minute to go. So is that all okay for everyone?
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Rim Gaudas was just mentioning earlier, Peter, it works quite well if people just chip in, and so keep yourselves on off mute, so you can chip in whenever. Everyone else who comes in will be on mute, however. Right, well, let's go for it.
Perfect. Good luck, lads.
Yeah.
And you.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Oh, there's a couple of people who there we go. A couple of people from my last panel discussion who've joined us. Richard, nice to see you again. But a very warm welcome to our second session today. And Uche, very good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And I'm delighted to welcome, we've got 4 panelists with us today. We have Rimgaudas. If you put your hand up, Rimgaudas, so everyone knows where you are, from Lithuania. We have Jeremy Beard from the UK. We have Peter Walsh from Ireland. And we have Uche Obi from Nigeria. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with a poll. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to start with. Those of you who've been on these panels before will know the form. So I'll show that in a few seconds. We'll then sort of do a quick analysis of the poll. And then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves in a little bit more detail. And we're going to go through a variety of questions related to firm management. And specifically, we're going to touch on staff issues. And I'm conscious that some of you have been part of the people panel we had just a little bit earlier on today, but Jeremy will talk a little bit about that, and the other panelists will cover off that as well. Efficiency of working, we're going to talk about as well, and Peter will lead off on that. Changing client demands, we'll get onto, and we'll also talk about sort of touch on new technology, new platforms, new services, and changing customer expectations. Now that will link also into a subsequent discussion that we've got later on today, which is on the future as well. So inevitably there's a little bit of overlap, but we will manage that accordingly. Great. Well, look, I'm going to keep an eye, because sometimes people join a little bit late, so I'll just keep an eye on people joining the Zoom as they come along. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a poll, so I'm going to throw this up now. Are you able to see that? Yeah, that's there. So if I could ask you to please answer those questions. There are 5 questions, and you'll need to scroll down to answer all of those. But if you could just start by answering those, they're reasonably straightforward. But I think the questions at the end will hopefully provide us with a bit more information. So I'll give you a few moments now just to answer some of those questions. Just give you a few more minutes. I think some people are still going through those. Right, I think we're pretty much there now with that. So I will stop that, and I'll hopefully then be able to share the results with you. Okay, so of the people who are attending today, vast majority fee earners. When I was on the people panel earlier on, we were pretty much 50-50 fee earners and operational staff. So I think that's quite an interesting percentage. Bit of a balance between law firms, accounting firms, slightly more on the accounting side. In terms of firm size, more slanted towards the sort of, if you like, we're all mid-sized firms, but the sort of smaller end of the mid-size, which is fine. So these are really the key things, really. The most challenging firm management issues at present, and a bit of a balance, really. Interestingly, no one has said financial management of the business. That might be something we might come back to a little bit later. Client relations are very significant, or the more significant, should I say. And I think that's something that Rimgaudus, you'll be leading off on a little bit in our discussion later on. Managing people, Jeremy, you're going to sort of touch on that, and then efficiency of working. Peter, you're going to sort of touch on that side of things as well. But then looking towards the future, interesting. I mean, I on the question, we pieced together recruitment and retention, but people will continue to be the issue. And it was interesting on our people panel discussion earlier on, it was retention which was deemed to be overwhelmingly the most significant issue going into the future. And then business development and marketing. And I think that then comes back to that aspect that Rimgaudus is going to touch on, the client relations and business development. So I think that's interesting to see, and interesting that no one considers staff morale to be an issue for the future. So, you know, I wonder what one can draw from that. But obviously, we were only asking for one particular selection on that, and I suspect the sort of recruitment and retention probably covers off that staff morale issue anyway. Good. Well, but we'll come back to that, and I hope that the panelists have sort of logged some of those key things, and we will come back to those shortly. So, have I stopped showing you the poll now? Yeah, great. Okay, yeah. Brilliant. Excellent. Well, let's just start off with an introduction from each of our panelists. And Jeremy, would you like to kick off and just introduce yourself and firm and things?
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Good day, I suppose I should say, to everyone, because it might be afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. So nice to see everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. A little bit about Hayes McIntyre. We are central London based, single office. Actually, we're all on one floor in our office, and we're between 350 and 400 people in total. We're a firm of accountants, and just a little bit perhaps about our demographic. We have, which is probably not unusual for an accountancy firm, but out of that 350, 400, we have about 190 within our audit department, of which probably 120 are within 3 years of leaving university, so are on their training program, etc. So, but I think that's quite important in terms of the context of what I will talk about, staff issues. Tim, are we going to do the rest of the intros, or do you want me to move into staff issues?
No, we'll do the quick intros from everyone first off. No, thanks, Jeremy, for that. Peter, over to you.
Great, Tim, and thank you very much for your kind invite, and congratulations to yourself and the team on another great virtual conference.
Well, we haven't finished yet.
You're doing very well so far, Tim. If you keep
I'll touch wood.
And it feels strange to be at a conference now and not having to be on a train, plane, or an automobile, or find our way to a bar. But you know, we're enjoying it nonetheless, and I hope that everyone is keeping safe and keeping well. Peter Walsh is my name. I'm the managing partner of the Irish law firm, the Dublin law firm Orp Franks, long-term members of MSI going back a quarter of a century, and we have a staff here of about 50 people. We're a full service law firm, and in the last year, same as yourselves, we have seen the hybrid. We've had people here on site, we've had a large group remote, we've had the challenges of bringing people back in and out as the waves go up and down. And we're certainly at the moment, we're looking at considering where we are as we move out of this, and what are we going to learn, what are we going to apply, what are we going to bring back. So I'm looking forward to contributing to this, listening to others, getting ideas, but that's where we are and that's where we're positioned. Great,
Peter. Thanks very much indeed. Rimgaudas, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Thanks a lot, Timothy, for inviting us, and really happy to be part of this participants, and happy to be here from Lithuania. So I'm representing Audifina. We are like a middle-sized company in Lithuania. We have 50 people working in our company. So in terms of Lithuanian companies, we are one of the biggest. Of course, we have those big four companies in terms of audit and accounting, which are also acting in Lithuania. So happy to be here. I'm head of consulting, and I will try to do my best also in this discussion. So thanks.
Great, Rimgaudas, thank you very much indeed. And Uche, very nice to see you. And if you'd like to introduce yourself as well as a panelist.
Thank you very much, Tim, and good day to everyone here and out there. Yes, my name is Uche Valo, the SIN. SIN is the Nigerian equivalent of the UK QC. I'm the managing partner of Alliance Law Firm, which is a full service law firm integrated with offices within Nigeria. We line out in Lagos, which is the commercial capital, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Abuja is a capital city, and Port Harcourt is the maritime hub. Alliance Law Firm has about 100 staff on the whole, 8 partners, and quite a number of lawyers, and then the support personnel. Our service offerings be straight, both dispute resolution and commercial and advisory practice. We do a whole lot of oil and gas work. We equally do insolvency and restructuring, including cross-border insolvency. And of late, we've been working and partnering with some firms in London on this. We also help inbound investments into Nigeria. Quite a lot of people wish to invest in Nigeria, in the energy space, in telecom, in transportation, and infrastructure. You know, we have quite huge infrastructure gap in Nigeria that could take investment of over $150 billion and still looking for more. And the economy is partly virgin in the sense that you have quite a lot of upsides in terms of pioneer status and other things you might get. So I'm glad to be here, and Tim, I think I'll leave it at this point. Thanks so much.
Great, Uche, thank you very much indeed for that. Great. Well, let's kick off with the first topic, and it really sort of comes down to sort of staff and you know, the issues of sort of people. Jeremy, you're a managing partner. You know, is this an issue which has been your greatest concern over the last year or so? Is it your greatest concern at the moment? To be interested in your thoughts, you know, over the last year, today, and indeed looking to the future, really.
Absolutely, Tim, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because I think it has changed from 12 months ago. I think the staff have always been our #1 priority, our #1 concern, but the concerns 12 months ago are different to the concerns today, and are probably different to the concerns looking forward. I must apologize in advance for any of those that were on the people session and listened to my colleague Anna Bennett. Hopefully we will say consistent things. If we don't, perhaps you ought to point that out to me, and we'll get our story straight going forward. I'm sure we will. Just on the poll, I absolutely think that for us as a business, managing people I would have had as #1, and then efficiency of working. Actually, client relationships and business development are not a major concern for us at the moment. Everything seems to be okay in there. And certainly I would have recruitment and retention of talent going forward. We are just developing our next 3-year strategy, and people and recruitment and retention of quality people is absolutely front and center of what we're going to be about and what we're going to do. I think how it's changed, interestingly, 12 months ago, I think the concern of the staff, and therefore our concern to make sure they were reassured, was financial stability, security of job, and those sort of things. We did furlough some staff. That's a UK term if you're not familiar. So we had government support for them to not be working, and there were some challenges around that. But our real driver at that point was to provide some comfort with regard to the financial security of the business and the security of their jobs. That has certainly transitioned over the last 12 months. And the biggest challenge, I would say today, is certainly staff well-being and workload. That is something that we're constantly talking about, constantly looking at, and have to be mindful of. I think some of the actions we're taking there are, obviously we're recruiting, we're continually recruiting and trying to get more people. We are resigning poor clients. We have really made a strong decision to resign poor clients, and there's a bit of a debate as to what defines a poor client, and that's not just necessarily profitability of a client. There might be other reasons why we consider a client to be poor, but we are really pushing that. We've had a little bit of a debate about whether we take on new clients at the moment because the staff are so loaded up with work. That's a difficult one. Of course, you don't want to stop taking on new clients, but I guess the same principle applies. We need to make sure that we are only taking on good quality new clients. So there's a number of factors going back there. We are, I think, and you would say that, wouldn't you, a very sociable firm compared to, and I have some knowledge of other firms certainly around London. And I think as a business, and I come back to that point I made earlier about the number of graduates we've got, the number of people in training, but as a business, we're a very sociable firm. And I think we've suffered from that over the last 12 months where people have been working from home, not seeing each other. And we are starting to drift back into the office. And you can visibly see now that well-being, that mental state of some of our people is starting to pick up again and improve because they're seeing their colleagues. For a lot of those younger people, their social life and their work life are intertwined. So that's been a really important factor. I think looking forward in terms of our strategy, and I talked about people, we're definitely seeing a war for talent. The Big Four, we are consistently losing out in terms of recruitment to the Big Four. They are, very high profile at the moment in the UK press around their, PwC, start and finish when you like, finish early on a Friday. KPMG this week, again, have announced finish early on a Friday during the summer months, 4-day fortnight. So that whole flexible piece. So, and actually the pay is not that different. So we're not losing out necessarily for the pay. I think the challenge is, if I'm brutally honest for us, is that, we're working our people almost as hard as they work in a Big Four. And some will say, okay, well, if I've got that lifestyle here and that work-life balance here, perhaps I'll have that in the Big Four and I might as well go there. So we've got some challenges about improving that employee value proposition, looking more at our mentoring, training, reward, work-life balance, et cetera, et cetera. So
interesting. Well, huge number of themes there, Jeremy, and thank you very much, Dee, for sharing those. I mean, one I was just intrigued by is workload, and why is workload so extreme now? Yeah. Is that being driven by people working from home, or is it because the marketplace is dictating?
Yeah, I'm not going to steal what Rimgardus might say, but there is an efficiency challenge in terms of the work we're doing. Twofold. It's not quite as efficient yet because it's taking time. That working from home piece, you haven't got the audit teams in particular working together, so they're more efficient. Clients, there's an education piece for clients in my mind that we haven't got the clients up to speed in terms of working remotely as well. So they will piecemeal give us information, whereas if you're on site sitting opposite the finance director, can I have this? He gives you that, she gives you that, whatever. So there is an efficiency piece around that as well. And because of the climate, there's more audit work to do, particularly around going concern. So there's more work that is having to be done on the same client. So it's a combination of all those things that's building up and creating this workload pressure.
Can I say?
Sorry,
Tim,
go on, Peter. Yeah,
coming in there, I think maybe a year ago you got a concession from a client as to what their expectations were in the context of remote working and the context of pandemic. But the fact that everything has been normalized here, clients are making no concession whatsoever as to their expectations. They're no longer saying, we understand that X, Y, or Z may be remote, or that third parties you're dealing with are remote. Clients, if anything, they've probably got used to us in the flexibility we applied, being more responsive, making sure to maintain the service and going the extra mile, being available early, being available late, being conscious to ensure that there was continuity of delivery. And I think we're not seeing, it's very, very similar. I think you could ask probably everyone on this call and the poll bore that out. People aren't concerned maybe about financial management or cash collection. It is managing people, and it is managing the expectations of your staff and your clients, because clients there's a load of work out there, which is great. There's the stimulus packages that will see more work. There's a regulatory environment that Jeremy was talking about is going to see more work for audit and governance teams, but there isn't clients. It's full tilt, it's full throttle. There's no one saying get to this when you can, cognizant of X, Y, or Z. The client demand is at 100%, 110%. And that's why the challenges around people and efficiency are all those things, in the context of those demands, in the context of the pandemic, are the challenges that we as leaders and professional service providers face.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, we'll come back to the efficiency because I know you're going to lead off on that a little bit later on. But I want to just turn to Uche now, and staying with the sort of the people theme, the staff theme. Do you echo some of those comments from Jeremy, or would you disagree with some of those, or what are you seeing are your big sort of people staff challenges at the moment, Uche?
Right, I totally agree with Jeremy. As a matter of fact, he appears to be speaking my mind. All of them. It goes to show that the issues, there's commonality of issues everywhere, irrespective of jurisdiction. Exactly what he was saying had presented our experience here. But I must add, in addition to what he has said, there seems to be suspicion out there amongst staff members that due to what has been happening, that the organization may not be able to retain them or pay them without probably a salary cut or any of those things. I said this because my firm, we did not reduce salary. We seem to have a little bit of reserve we were trying to use for a particular investment when this pandemic came. And then we quickly discontinued that. So we had reserve to pay salaries. I made an announcement from day one to staff members that there will not be any retrenchment of any kind. There will not be any salary reduction. What we may not be able to do is to increase what we pay, but everyone will remain where they were. I made that in a meeting that was recorded. And we kept to that. But still, some staff members did not believe that such would happen. They started making alternative plans. And I can tell you, within this period, we lost probably about 10% of our key staff members. So as Jeremy has just said, we're now in a process of trying to replace them.
Yeah.
We have started that, and good enough, some of the firms that took our staff members were also going there to pick some of theirs. And then, so predictability was, and probably what you may call morale amongst staff became a challenge at some point because of what was happening. They've never said it before, and probably they didn't know how long it was going to last. So it became a challenge that we all have to address. But again, some kind of clients were heavily impacted. You know, some, especially those who were operating in the energy space, like the E&P clients, like the service midstream clients in the petroleum sector were impacted because at some point the world crude price, oil price, you know, came down, and then they lost revenue, and also they were in problems. You know, so again, so that affected our receivables, what we had planned and projected for. And it became also a problem, and it is part of what we're looking at. We are now trying to restructure our client, you know, portfolio, the base, and then try to go to other areas where we had probably not given prime attention, like the fintech, technology. Like we now have a new practice area we call the IMET, which is intellectual property, media, entertainment, and technology. And then we are now upscaling our tax advisory practice. Those were not traditional areas we have been doing in the firm, but we just have to bring them up now, and then trying to headhunt for the best hands to fill in the space among those areas. So it calls for re-strategization, re-strategizing what has been, what firms have been doing to ensure that you keep, you know, on top of the game all the time.
Yeah. Great, Uche, that's fascinating, actually, and I think it's fascinating your honesty about what happened with some of those people leaving, and one of the themes that I've heard mentioned many times actually over the last year or so is how firms' communication has improved with people, and I wonder whether, with the communication improving, there's, in most of our firms, that element of trust has improved as well, and there's that element of we're all in it together, in a way that may not have been the case, you know, maybe 12, 18 months ago. And so I suppose that, coupled with that fear, we heard our keynote talking about fear earlier on. You know, I suspect that some of your former employees were sort of thinking, well, I'm really not sure because I don't necessarily know what the firm's thinking about, and I'm really worried about what's happening in the future, and therefore I'm going to leave. But I suspect now, if those people had stayed, they would feel much more confident because actually the communication is better, that you've obviously sort of addressed the whole client piece as well. So fascinating story, but thank you very much for sharing that, Uche. Rimgalis, I'm going to ask you now about the people issue, and you know, what have you found the biggest challenges, and what, perhaps more importantly, do you see the biggest challenges in the next year, 5 years or so?
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. I completely also agree with Jeremy, what was said before. I think that in our case, as we are audit, accounting, and consulting company, like not a law firm, we didn't have any issues with the clients. Like our employees, we were not worried that they will be fired. We were not worried that they will not receive any salary. And we didn't even kept the salaries. We kept growing because we need to grow our company. We still have a growing volume of new clients. As Jeremy mentioned, I completely agree that now we must focus on getting the good clients, because we need to select those, to choose those, because the staff supply is very limited. And that's why we cannot keep at the same level of salaries even right now. For example, these months, like April, May are the most toughest usually in our activity. So we try to not to postpone our bonuses. like for further months, we try to put some bonuses even this month, like to show people that yes, we are working hard, but we are getting paid at least for that. And in terms of the issues, the biggest issue is to get new and quality staff, because what we face, like even in Lithuania, it is really a lack of people right now. And I think that this kind of times they've made it a little bit harder, even more, because people are afraid to change their jobs. In some cases, we face that people, if they are working in some place and they see that it's stable, they are afraid to change it, to go to another company right now, because they are afraid that maybe something will change. And here we see that, yeah, it's good, like, okay, maybe it's not the best, but at least it's stable. So we see that it's right now it's very difficult to get like good senior accountants, good auditors. For example, in Lithuania, it's very limited supply of those. And if you want to grow our department, our division, to get more clients, what we see that there is a demand. Definitely, we can get much more clients, but it's very difficult to get good staff. That's why we are limited. And I think that our issues right now and in the future still same, focusing on the employees and how to get those, how to retain as well. It's very important. We are doing some incentives right now, like trying to put people together, to do some weekly calls, to do some like common initiatives, like walking some miles together, sharing initiatives, sharing some favorite movies, discussing about pets, etc. So trying to put people together, because we are still working from home, and it doesn't matter even for the audit department. Audit department is the most difficult one, as Jeremy said, because it's very difficult to do audits when you need to work in team, and it's really not that efficient right now. So what we do, we focus how to retain the people, and we focus how to get more people. We need to invest. We try to think how to do better value proposition, because as well as Jeremy, we are fighting with big fours to get those, to get good specialists, and it's not easy to do, because like we are big company. We already developed all the network. We have the methods how to do that. We already know in the market, and for us, it's still a long way, like to get it and to create it. So I would say that right now and in the future, still focus how to get more and quality people, because it's easy to get people who are not in good quality, and when you get it, like you see that no, like it was a bad decision, and it's bad for both, for that person and for the company, because both sides invest their time. So.
Yeah, great, Remgaras, thanks for that. And so I'd like to sort of move on now, and we touched on, everyone has touched on a little bit already, this whole aspect of efficiency. There have been challenges in the last year in terms of how businesses, your firms have had to be run. Those challenges will continue. But Peter, I'm going to turn to you now. What are the lessons that you've learned over the last year? How are you looking at how the business may develop in the coming 12 months, 24 months as we come out of COVID, in terms of being that much more effective, that much more, efficient, how you're integrating staff, how you're providing a better service to clients, in the broadest sense, what measures have you sort of adopted or are planning to adopt to make the business, your business, that much more effective?
Sure. You used the word challenge there, Tim, and I think we're all very clear that the last 18 months have been incredibly challenging. But I think a word that's often used with challenge inappropriately is that of opportunity. I think we also face now a period of an opportunity to challenge the assumptions that we had going into this pandemic. Also, some of those that we may have encountered as we moved through the last year and a half, because probably there were assumptions that many of us would have had that working at home wasn't possible, that you couldn't do it in certain professions. In the legal profession, you couldn't engage with clients, you couldn't engage with colleagues, you couldn't get transactions completed. So a lot of assumptions that we would have had going into this have been proved to be incorrect. I think it's what the challenge is to ensure that you don't just carry new assumptions in, that remote working is absolutely the panacea to everything, that we should have everybody remotely, that we should banish people from the office, we should downsize or change our expectations as to offices. I don't think that'll be appropriate as well. I think we have to take a period to reflect. We have to look at, honestly, you have to look at what has worked for us for the individuals, not just necessarily a collective, not just a view. Sometimes there can be views taken from the airified partners' offices as to what, isn't this great, my commute is shorter, or isn't this great, I can get out and do X, Y, and Z in the evening. While the experience of those, and Jeremy touched on it earlier on, and is touching it in the calls that we've had previously, the experience of different demographics, younger staff that are in shared accommodation, people for whom remote working isn't the answer. We've all seen, as people have returned to the offices or have attended events or we've had initiatives, we've seen how well people have responded to that. So I think there are three things that we have to do. We have to engage. You talked about talking to people, you talked about communicating. So without question, you have to engage. You have to talk to people without fear of them providing an expected response or being told what you want to hear. You have to talk openly and imaginatively to people. You have to engage with them. You have to communicate what you are looking at, what you are considering, what you're willing to look at. And because going back, we have to differentiate ourselves from other employers, because this race and war for talent is a big part of it, and engagement and communication is key. You have to invest. You can't simply say that the investment that you had in your infrastructure, the investment that you had in IT, the investment that you had in systems, or for instance, you have to possibly have more. The phrase that we used during the last summer was more boots in the sand. I had my fee earners and my senior people probably off site. And I had maybe younger people in a large building that we have. I was able to have younger people that were able to walk to the office, they were able to attend the office. They were the boots in the sand and on the ground. And they were able to manage things by document management, paper management, everything that's part and parcel of a law firm. So you have to invest in team members. You have to invest in IT. You have to look at supporting people in different ways. And then you have to manage and respond. You're going to try things. We've all tried things in the last year that didn't work. We thought we would look at efficiency changes that would improve things. We had to reverse quite quickly out of them because they weren't working, notwithstanding the assumptions that we had. So you have to manage that, be flexible about it, be adaptable, and all the time looking for efficiencies that can and unquestionably have arisen from this pandemic. From e-signing to remote working to everything like that, it has kicked us on. It's been a watershed that has kicked us on like a large conflict or a large event, disruptive event. This is without question a disruptive event. So what we have to do is take time, as I say, to engage, to communicate, to talk, and to listen, to invest. Uche talked about investing and being in a position to invest. Absolutely, invest in people, invest in systems, invest in IT, and then manage, adapt, and respond. And that's what I think everybody where we're positioned where we are has to do that. They have to do it with open eyes, open ears, and an open mind.
Yeah, Peter, that's great. Thank you very much. And just following on something you said just then, I mean, is there one particular aspect that you explored, which I think you touched on it, things which you've done which failed? Is there one particular one which stands out for you, which you might like to be able to share? And likewise, is there one particular thing which you've changed, which has been a game changer?
Sure. Well, as I say, this is a massive disruptive event. We shook the bag up and we had to make our best, for us in early March 2020, and we had to rapidly move offsite, as everyone here managing teams had to do. So things that probably didn't work, that initially everyone said, wow, this remote working is the answer. Zoom and MS Teams, and sure, we can talk to our team every day. So the realization that a universal offsite, universal remote working is not the answer. And that very quickly, as we moved through the year, people realized that they didn't want to be. They might like the shorter commute. They might like the absolute flexibility, the remote working and home working answered, but they wanted to have the capacity to come back in. So creating an environment where people were safe to come back in, or able to come back in, or welcome to come back in, that was very important. So I'd say the mistake was thinking that absolutely this remote stuff was the panacea, and that it could work and that it could continue to service the business. And that just because people were happy with it initially didn't necessarily mean that they would be happy long term, or they would want it. But the other thing is, it is that flexibility. It is, we probably have shifted from my expectation that I'll be in here at 7 or 8 in the morning, and that the team will drop in at 9 o'clock, and that there will be a fixed and rigid hours, and if you're not here, you're not working. So to try and to retain that, and to make sure that we shouldn't go about putting back into our lives or into our working lives or elsewhere everything that was there before. We should be selective about how we do it and do it on a trial basis. So absolutism, I think, is the one thing that should move. The theory that absolute remote will work or absolute office presence is essential. And we just have to be flexible as we look for efficiencies and economies of scale.
Yeah, great, Peter. Thank you very much indeed. I mean, Jeremy, any thoughts on anything that Peter said? Or, I mean, can you think of a game changer in terms of Hayes McIntyre efficiency over the last year or few months or so?
No, not really one single thing. I think it's a combination of lots of things. I suppose there's two things that I'd add into there. I would agree entirely with Peter. I think that piece around getting back into the office, that piece around, and we come back to staff, you know, the better the staff feel, the better the morale, the more efficient and the better they work. So that will lead to that. And, you know, I think we all have to be very flexible. You know, I've got some staff, some of the younger staff who say, yeah, I'd like to come into the office on Friday so that we can go to the pub in the evening. And that's, if that's the reason they come into the office is to go to the pub with their mates on a Friday evening, that's fantastic. Yeah, you know, I've got no issue with that. I suppose there's just one thing I would throw into the mix. You know, when we talk about efficiency, what do we mean? We either mean doing the same job quicker, or we mean cutting costs. But there is another aspect to that. And the other aspect is increasing fees. And we are absolutely determined at the moment, again, and it comes back to, you know, getting rid of poor quality clients. The other side of that, instead of just firing poor quality clients, is to increase the fees to an appropriate level. So we are being, and you know, there's certain things going on in the audit environment at the moment anyway, in terms of increased work, but increasing fees at a rate that, you know, we set a sort of a benchmark of 10%, but even that, you know, in certain areas we say now that, you know, for some clients that's just not sufficient. It needs to be 20-30% increases in the fees because they've not kept up and they're not at the right level. So, you know, efficiency doesn't necessarily just mean cutting costs and doing things quicker. It can also mean getting the right fee for the job.
Yeah, no, well, that's great, Jeremy. And that's a nice introduction really into the next areas I want to touch on, which is the whole sort of client relations piece, client demands. And we saw in the poll that this is an area which is of a fair amount of importance to people, and certainly looking to the future as well. But Rim Gaudas, I turn to you now, and maybe your thoughts in terms of the relationship with clients, how that's developed, and what your focus is now for 2021 in terms of meeting client demands, and maybe touching a little bit on what Jeremy just said in terms of, you know, the position with fees and the like as well.
Yeah, I think it was a very good point that Jeremy touched. So regarding the fees, it's if to start to elaborate this a little bit, we also see this kind of opportunity, especially like with our accounting like department, because there is like long relations with the clients. It means that you sign a client and you work with him like for a few years, and usually we start to think that, okay, like what was in the beginning, it should last like all the time. And when time goes by, we grow, the activity grow, the volumes grow. And if you have some kind of fixed amounts, if accountants are not working on that, if like our control department are not working on that, you appear in a situation when the situation is very, very like difficult for you, that, for example, you issue only 50% of your actual hours, which you actually spent with the client. And here is the tricky situation, because if you don't follow it like on the time, it means that after changing by 10%, by 20%, if you don't go to the client to speak later on that it changes by 50%, and you can say like, guys, like you see, like we have a situation and your turnover changed and the volume changed like by half, and we want to raise our fee, you cannot ask for this amount, because client says, yeah, it's crazy, like don't tell me this because I will change you. So in this case, you can appear in a situation where you can lose even a profitable client, which could have paid if you would come on time. So we also try to work to focus on this kind of efficiency management and to work with our clients and try to somehow identify this kind of situations on the time. Yet we are still struggling on that, and this is also our focus for the upcoming years, because this is, I think, in most of the companies, this is a really good area to improve the profitability, to improve the efficiency, not even getting more clients. Because then we have the issue with the staff. It means that for us to increase our profitability, sometimes it is to change our clients, like either to raise a fee, either to get a better clients. So in such cases, we usually try to raise our fee for such poor clients. And if it's not the case, if a client resigns, it means that okay, we lose it. But it's better to resign, to terminate the contract instead of working, which is losses each month. So getting back to the client, changes to the demand and to the requirements, I completely agree with Peter what was said before, that during this kind of times, COVID, clients' expectations have changed. Now it's very common to see that email comes like 10 a.m. in the evening, or even 12 a.m. in the evening, and it means we are expecting to get the answer. What's really not common what was before. And I can find myself, my colleagues, like people are responding to emails even on the weekends. They're working in the evenings. Okay, the hours are a little bit shifted, but still, now the clients try to require more. Like we expect to get more services for the same price, to get it promptly. It doesn't matter that we work from home. So in this case, it's also very important to work with our people and to discuss, to agree, like to have a system. What's important for us? In which cases we should react? Yeah, in which cases maybe it's better to explain our clients, like in this case, yeah, it's not something urgent that yeah, we can answer like next morning. So it's bilaterally. We try to speak with our clients, also with our employees, and to find that kind of balance, what's good and what's necessary to do, and what we shouldn't do, and what we shouldn't try to learn our clients. And yeah, I think that's the key thing in this case. So
great, Rimgadas, that's great. Thank you very much. And Uche, just turning to you, I mean, you earlier on, you were, when we were talking about staff, you talked about diversification of clients and moving into different areas. I mean, give us a little bit more flavor to that, as to why you went down that route and how that's worked, and is it fee driven or is it market driven? Just give us a little bit of a feel for the change in terms of client focus. Sorry, you're muted at the moment. Great.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Sorry about that. Thanks a lot, Tim. This is a very important question, and in doing this, I'll try to explain quite a number of things. First, what we're doing regarding staff replacement is that, like I said, we're hiring from available sources within Nigeria, and we've also been hiring some foreign-based personnel because they can work remotely. And with that, we are getting even higher caliber kind of replacements, and the flexibility that they can work from, offshore gives us a very, very good leverage and exposure. And this is even better for us. And this is part of what the pandemic, some of the good things that have come out of this. Then, in terms of our relationship with clients, we're being strategic because we're law firm. And in Nigeria, you also have to respect the culture at play. Now, things work because of the kind of relationship you have with clients. And sometimes these clients want the impression, for you to give them the impression that you understand when they're in difficulty. Okay? So what we have done is try not to increase fees, but being a little bit more creative. So for a client that doesn't have the cash flow to pay us now, we try to build in maybe like contingency kind of arrangement, okay, where we get a percentage of what is recovered by the end of the day. Now, this is allowed in Nigeria, please. And again, also for transactions where you ought to have built a particular amount, you could step it down a bit, but reserve the right to charge some success component, so that if it works like financing, let us say a company is trying to raise $1 billion, you know, from a syndicate of lenders, and then you can always agree, okay, fine, I'm not going to charge you so much at the onset, but if this deal works well, here is what you pay. They are more amenable to accepting that kind of arrangement, which they see as a win-win situation. And by the end of the day, we stand a chance of sometimes making so much that ordinary would have made. But at the same time, the client see us as very, very compassionate and trying to understand their situation. Now, we are a law firm. One aspect of our work has to do with dispute resolution. We litigate, we equally do arbitrations. When clients are in that area, they have problems. And probably what they want to gain from such litigation or case will be something they look forward to, but they might not have sufficient money to invest in it. If it is convenient for us, we go into a kind of litigation funding arrangement with them. Okay, and by the end of the day, we would have weighed the kind of matter, know the risk associated with it, and then be able to do that. Then another aspect would be like the corporate work, the advisory work, and the likes. Again, those are the ones that we already have established time billing, you know, processed. So we discuss all that. Sometimes we grant some discounts. All that we're trying to do is to ensure that we're their good books in this difficult time. And because from experience, such clients have a way of coming back to you in time, in the period that things are going return to normalcy with them. So these are the kind of things we do. And in terms of the practice areas we've created, what we have just done is to aggressively staff. You know, sometimes we recruit scholar practitioners. These are people from the ivory towers who are established authorities in those areas. We get them on board and then help them, they work with us, either as consultants, or they come and then sign up with a firm on full time. So that at the onset, people will know that, look, this practice is serious, is solid, is well resourced. Okay, so these are some of the things we do to establish those practices. Then we follow them up with sensitization, with creating the awareness, doing webinars, of course, sometimes informing a network like MSI and so many other kind of people that, look, we have this area in our firm that we are equally developed. We do not claim that we have the largest size of market, but we can always claim that we have the capacity to do. And we could always point that the ones we've done, they were nicely done, and then we have the referrals to chase for it. And then over time, you know, I mean, it keeps on opening and it keeps on opening. And then we also market existing clients in our portfolio that we now have these new service offerings. And to the extent that they're already happy with us, it's very easy for them to sign up that, okay, you could extend this kind of services to us. So these are some of the things we're doing.
Yeah, great, Uche, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Peter, I saw you sort of nodding there to various things that Uche was saying. I mean, just in terms of the client relationships that you're having, you know, and client development, I mean, you know, what are the key things which you would agree with with Uche, or are there other things that perhaps haven't been covered off?
Well, it's just the point that Uche made earlier on, how we're all encountering the same challenges. We're in different time zones, we're in different cultures and continents, but this game doesn't really change. So myself and Uche are obviously both running law firm, himself in Nigeria, me in Ireland, but everything that Uche is going through there was resonating with our experiences and indeed our approach. And it talks about you're investing there with clients, cognizant of a need to maintain a relationship. Cognizant that there's what we're going to see is we're going to see more opportunities, we're going to see more demands in our services, and the investment that Uche is making in adjusting his fee proposals or in or being sensitive and having regard to the needs of the clients and the expectations of the clients. Uche knows through experience, and I've no doubt it'll be borne out through what we're going through now as well, is that he will see a return on that. That as you sow, so shall you reap, and that there will be an opportunity to reap from the investment of understanding, of collegiality, and of flexibility with clients, and that short-termism. I think it probably aligns as well what Uche said earlier on about the fact that he told his staff quite clearly there would be no retrenchment or reduction, and that was another investment that Uche has made, and no doubt we'll see the dividends from. So really, it's about no short-termism, being flexible and understanding with your clients, and seeing a long-term return on this. We're all in this for the long term, not a short-term game, and that should be remembered and applied, in particular in challenging times and crises such as this.
Great. Peter, thank you very much indeed. Well, you summarised very nicely there, actually, and we're almost out of time. So you've done my job for me, Peter. Thank you very much indeed. But no, in all seriousness, thank you very, very much indeed to all of our panelists, Jeremy, Rim, Gaddis, Peter, and Uche. Very different perspectives from law firms, from accounting and audit firms, from Nigeria, from the Baltic area, from Western Europe as well. So thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us. We've covered a lot of ground, focused particularly on some of the people issues, efficiency issues, and also the client issues as well. We've slightly run out of time to look at elements of the future. But a little bit of a plug, we have got another breakout session later on this afternoon, which is going to be in about half an hour's time, actually, where we're going to be exploring the future. I'm sort of leading off on that. I've got some great panelists on that. We've also got a panel talking about mental health, a really important subject, which again links back to the people issue, and also talking about working together. So the whole aspect of collaboration and working in a collegiate way. So 3 options there. And then we also then have our final keynote speaker as well, who's going to be talking about leadership. So again, a lot of you here now are leaders, and I'm sure there'll be some useful bits of information that Jean will be able to share with us later with that. But again, a big thank you to our panelists. Thank you very much for some of you, Peter, who stepped in at the last minute. Thank you for that. But also a big thank you to all of you for taking part, and hope to see you again later in the course of today. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Well
Bye.
done.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye. 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 Bye.